Welcome to Paulogia and another edition of Ham and Egg News, where we react to Ken Ham reacting to things.
You're already all over the news. Don't you get enough attention?
But this is my show.
Nah, today it isn't. I'm taking over. Get out of here.
So this first article says, yes, computing genetic ancestors is super accurate. Whoa.
Oh, shoot. This episode's gonna be heavy on research. I did not think this through.
Did someone call for stick?
Oh, good. You can do all the hard work for me. Everyone knows I usually have to drink my way through these anyway.
Well, this time you won't have to drink alone. I'll join you.
Well, let's see what these idiots are on about this time.
So they basically figure out the mutation rate of our DNA, or whatever animal they're studying, DNA, and then they back calculate and basically figure out what the ancestral gene or the ancestral protein look like.
Yes, of course. This is a concept we've known about for years. It's not news. Molecular clocks, although not a completely independent method of dating, is reliable to tracing back molecular genetics in our ancestors. It's useful to figure out when two species diverged. It's useful for seeing how related people are. It's a powerful tool that can give us a lot of information about natural history. Of course, Georgia and Ham here aren't particularly going to enjoy this type of science.
Aren't they really saying because evolution is true and we believe evolution, therefore when we look at these genes believing evolution, we'll extrapolate backwards to prove evolution because we've assumed evolution?
Yeah.
Oh, Ham, you're so silly. Thinking you know what scientists use molecular clocks for. You should be a comedian.
Hey, everybody knows that Bodie is in charge of the jokes over there. Don't take that away from Bodie. I'm pretty sure that's all he has. That and just a really loose understanding of what the word fallacy means.
Yes, that's an affirmative consequent fallacy.
Yeah. Here's his fatal flaw, though. Molecular clocks aren't used independently to prove evolution at all, or the process of natural selection, or whatever. It's a tool that can give us additional information. Want to know when a speciation event occurred? No problem. Look at the genetic evidence. You can imagine DNA as a clock, always ticking with mutations, and by mapping out and rewinding this mutated clock, we can go back to see when two sets of DNA were the same. Of course, this would depend on multiple factors, such as prediction of migration, loss of DNA with mutations through death, etc. But no one is claiming this is an independent measure of time, because it's not.
Based on everything I've looked at, it seems like they're utilized to find a point of reference where there was a convergence in phylogeny. They can use this information along with the fossil record, other branches of genetics, etc., to establish a more accurate timeline, but it isn't a dating method. Ken just heard the word clock and went with it. I mean, we all know how he feels about interpreting things literally.
Silly Ken Ham. We could have given him Harry Potter when he was a kid and told him it was the absolute truth, and he would have taken it literally even at age 66.
First two lines says, remnants of extinct monkeys are hiding inside you, along with those of lizards, jellyfish, and other animals. Your DNA is built upon gene fragments from primal ancestors. Now, here's what I thought was interesting. In the secular worldview, they have humans, they have apes, they have monkeys. Humans didn't evolve from the monkeys. They all have some common ancestor back there. So how is it that you can have DNA from monkeys in there, and that's not even supposed to be on your line?
Even from our common ancestor, right, but not from, yeah.
I think you need to learn how to properly read an article. You read it yourself. Remnants of extinct animals. This is referring to ancestors in the past that contributed to the DNA we have today. So just please, at least read articles carefully before you attempt to make fun of them.
Okay, this strange alien skeleton is actually a human fetus with genetic bone defects. So some sort of animal that washed up on shore and people thought maybe it was Loch Ness Monster. You know, you got to be really careful because looking at this skeleton, it does look really strange. And so initially it was reported to be some sort of alien, but then they finally did DNA analysis on it and said, no, it is completely human. Mm-hmm. It's about a 5-month-old fetus that probably was delivered prematurely and died. And they did an analysis of its DNA and found a lot of defects in genes that are responsible for bone formation.
Oh, so you're saying that some baby died as a fetus while suffering from mutations responsible for a defective bone formation. Gee, I wonder how this would have happened. Did God make a mistake or something? Or perhaps he did it on purpose because that fetus sinned, I guess? But still, wouldn't punishment be delivered in the afterlife only? This is just too much for me.
Well, yeah, the internet was abuzz with this being, oh, look, we found an alien.
Interestingly enough, we haven't found any aliens yet. Which is actually quite surprising. But I have no doubt that in the near future, we will find an actual alien, or at least discover traces that life exists outside of Earth. And when that happens, I cannot wait to see the look on your faces, although you'd probably just throw your arms in the air and cry that it's fake.
Or condemn it to hell. Or probably sell it some AiG material.
It's to remind you got to be really careful with media reports. And in fact, we get all sorts of reports come across our desk all the time on the internet. You've got to check everything out. We have actual researchers that go and check and make sure it's a bona fide report.
It's real in the first place.
I know, because there's so much out on the internet that's just so wrong.
Oh, well, finally something we agree on. Yes, there's tons of nonsense on the internet, like this show you're hosting. So don't forget to go and double check the primary sources.
Oh, Ken doesn't have to. He made the Answers Research Journal. Now he's his own primary source. And he filled it with people who share his specific implicit bias and labeled everything that comes out of it scientific truth. It's just a really clever way of never having to acknowledge the massive bodies of study all over the world that totally contradict literally everything he sells in his amusement park gift shop.
Whenever you see atheists writing things about Answers in Genesis, the Creation Museum, the Ark Encounter, like last year, they were continually saying no one's coming to the Ark Encounter, it's failing.
You're right there, Ken. You seem to be a little sensitive with that issue. So much that you spun a topic that was not very relevant into a rant about your stupid Ark. To be honest, I would like to go there sometime, just to see what else I can waste my life on.
One of the attorneys for the Freedom from Religion Foundation even said American atheists are looking at the possibility of taking it over as their office because it's all failing and no one's coming.
Andrew Seidel, who was the staff attorney at the Freedom from Religion Foundation, was on the Science Enthusiast podcast on March 27th, 2017, to talk about visiting the Ark. Dan Broadbent, who's one of the hosts of the podcast, mentioned that when the Ark finally fails, they should start a GoFundMe to move the offices of the American atheists there.
The real question is, what are we going to turn it into when it's done?
He wouldn't mind moving the American Atheists headquarters there too. So I know that's out there.
Just let it go, Ken.
This next one comes from National Geographic. These twins, one black and one white, will make you rethink race. One of the twins looks like her mother, who is English-born, and the other one looks more like her father, who is of Jamaican descent. So one is black and one is white. One is dark and one is light. But pretty cool.
Pretty cool indeed. Although at this point, calling them black or white can get really blurry. Interracial couples like this usually produce children of skin color kind of in between the shades of the parents. So in this case, the children's skin color are kind of what are expected. And it's no real surprise that the color wouldn't be exactly the same. But they just landed in an area sort of at the border between black and white.
Well, there's been quite a few examples of this, right. And it goes to show there's only one race. It's the human race.
Well, race actually has a loose definition. It's a categorization system beneath the level of subspecies. Of course, its meaning can be changed depending on what species is being looked at, but it definitely exists among humans. I get that you're just trying to say that all humans are equal by saying there's only one human race, but still.
Well, you know how creationists are when it comes to definitions.
Right.
We've been conditioned as a culture to look at people differently and say, oh, well, they're part of this race or that race based on, say, eye shape or skin tone or whatever it might be.
I definitely do think we should strive to view everyone equally. Another point we agree on, I suppose.
Jane Goodall. I thought chimps were like us, only nicer, but we inherited our dark evil side from them. So this article is an interview with Jane Goodall, who's famous for studying chimpanzees in Tanzania for 60 years.
I wonder, do people at AiG ever read the primary sources? I'm not saying these articles are wrong, but many secondary sources do twist facts presented by the original author to either fit a narrative or to make it simply more entertaining.
This article used a clickbait headline in order to promote a documentary series. Unfortunately, this team rarely gets any substantial distance past the clickbait portion.
Well, I suppose clickbait does work quite well. I use it all the time.
And she was talking about how in her early days when she was first studying chimpanzees, she thought that they were really nice and just really friendly and kind, and then she quickly realized that was not the case.
Like what you see on
Yeah, I guess chimps are not very nice. Stick figures are definitely better.
They're animals.
Stuff, right?
Yeah.
Curious George.
Not even close. She's like, they can rip your face off.
Yeah.
Animals are generally nicer towards others of their own species. It makes sense after all due to the biological advantage provided to ensure the survival of the population.
But there's this mistaken belief that humans evolved from a chimpanzee, but that's actually not what an evolutionary worldview teaches. They teach that humans and chimpanzees are like cousins and they have some common ape-like ancestor back in the past.
Wow, a creationist actually got it right. For once.
Well,
as Christians, we don't believe that at all.
Aw, poor Bodie. He actually made a cogent argument, and immediately his AiG programming kicked in, and he had to undermine everything that he just said. Oh, what fallacy was that, Bodie? The fallacy from accuracy?
This next article is about me.
humans don't get enough sleep. Just ask other primates.
Oh, the word other. They just had to throw that in there. didn't
Yeah.
they?
Okay, deep breath, Stick. You made it this far.
I could have stayed home and enjoyed a nice cup of hot chocolate. Thanks to AiG, I'm here listening to this nonsense.
The premise of the article is that because man evolved, as he was evolving and he came down from the trees, he had to have less sleep because he had to be more on guard for predators and so on.
Yeah.
Seems like a reasonable explanation. Individuals that sleep less survived better. Simple natural selection at work.
And then he had to develop social skills and also to learn and teach other skills.
Right.
And so therefore they got less sleep.
Also a sound explanation. The teaching part is most likely due to the growing size of the brain. Teaching and learning became a primary asset that Homo sapiens had in order to outperform other species.
Arguments that make some form of intrinsic sense that fit within the framework of established science, those tend to go off the rails pretty quickly on this show.
Maybe we could give them some credit for at least knowing how to read.
I looked up, they're criticizing us for not having as much sleep as the animals, and so, it's probably better for the animals. They get more sleep. Do you realize chimps, their average lifespan is about 33 years?
Oh, come on, that has very little to do with sleep. The lifespan of Homo sapiens was definitely low until we developed healthcare and access to clean food and water. I mean, I'm sure that if chimps had the things that we do, they would live pretty long as well. And also, this article is by no means criticizing humans or anything along those lines. How is providing an explanation on why humans sleep less than other primates a way of criticism?
See? Told you. Right off the rails. Anytime they're referencing another, that's right, Bodie, I said another primate, it's certain that's just to open the door to make a ridiculous argument to undermine evolution. Or it's a way for Bodie to promote his Tower of Babel book. I mean, the bullshit segues all meld together in my mind at this point.
This one comes from the site Insights, using DNA strands in polymer nanoparticle design. Researchers have chemically imprinted polymer particles with DNA strands, which they're hoping this will have applications for soft robotics and things like that, which basically they build these nanoscale cages and then the DNA is able to self-assemble.
Wow, first time I'm hearing about this. Sounds absolutely fascinating. It's crazy to see how far science has come to develop new ways to improve our everyday lives.
It's kind of fascinating. It's a fascinating little design the way they're putting all this together.
It's neat. It's always neat to see people copying what God has already made.
What God has already made. No, don't give credit to your almighty sky daddy now. This is all on the scientists. It's their work. It involves a lot of creativity and testing and retesting, so please just give them some credit.
Right, because DNA can assemble and unassemble, pretty easily. I mean, because of the base pairing that occurs there.
No. DNA doesn't have that property because of the hydrogen bonds that occur between base pairs. You'd be proposing that we would be able to have a stable structure using single-stranded DNA. My guess would be that they use other properties that could stem from DNA, such as hydrophilic and hydrophobic interactions. I couldn't be sure, so I opened up the primary source that the article said the technique was based on. Let's read the abstract. Site-specific positioning of dendritic alkyl chains on DNA cages enable their geometry-dependent self-assembly. Nature uses a combination of non-covalent interactions to create a hierarchy of complex system from simple building blocks. One example is the selective association of the hydrophobic side chains that are a strong determinant of protein organization. Here, we report a parallel mode of assembly in DNA nanotechnology. Dendritic alkyl DNA conjugates are hybridized to the edges of a DNA cube. When 4 amphiphiles are on one face, the hydrophobic residues of 2 neighboring cubes engage in an intermolecular handshake, resulting in a dimer. When there are 8 amphiphiles, 4 on the top and bottom cube faces, respectively, they engage in an intramolecular handshake inside the cube. This forms the first example of a nano-dispersed micelle within a DNA nanostructure that encapsulates small molecules and releases them by DNA recognition. Creating a 3-dimensional pattern of hydrophobic patches, like side chains in a protein, can result in specific directed association of hydrophobic domains with orthogonic interactions to DNA base pairing. So as you can see here, the structure is mainly determined by the organization and manipulation of a synthetic DNA's amphiphilic properties, which can create hydrophobic and hydrophilic interactions. Sorry, this was a small nitpick. I didn't mean to make a big deal out of it.
I thought that was neat. I
think it's cool.
I think it was cool that your two fields came together.
God did it first, though, so,
right.
we're just mimicking it. Okay.
Right.
Hey, you did it! See, I knew you could make it to the end.
I'm gonna go punch a wall. I think my IQ dropped so low it went into the negatives.
No. These are expensive, and I just got them fixed. Go punch one of those white walls on your channel.
Fine, but I'm taking the viewers with me.
No way, Stickman. I'm actually making videos now. I'm taking the viewers to my channel. I need them more than you.
It's true. The day everyone's been waiting for so long has finally arrived. Shannon Q has at least 2 videos up on her channel now. If you like what we're doing here, go check them out and subscribe. Of course, if you're somehow not already familiar with Professor Stick and his refutation of all manner of lunacy, you should remedy that too.
Thanks, Paul. And if you're here from my channel, be sure to subscribe to Paulogia for more AiG destruction. I shall depart now.
Thanks for watching.
As always, huge thank you to my patrons whose support makes this channel possible.
Until next time, later.